Wendy and Scroll were savoring premium black tea. Blowing the heat away from the rim of her cup, they took a gentle sip. Once they dealt with her daily tasks, having another cup of tea was a pleasant respite for them both. Across the table, Paper was still grappling with the divine seal imprint. She had now mastered the technique of infusing the seal with magic and could control the output of magical power with relative precision, but no matter what she did, she could only light up the first magic stone on the seal. The two would watch Paper and remember the days at the Witch Association, sighing with sentiment. Back then, probably no one had imagined that they would ever lead the life they had now. But things were much better now. Their sisters would not have to endure the hardships they had experienced. Paper walked over, holding up the divine seal imprint, and complained to Wendy, "When will she be able to light up the second magic stone?" Wendy responded with a smile, suggesting that perhaps Paper needed to grow bigger a bit more. She then extended her arms to the young girl for a hug. Paper grasped her hand and found solace in Wendy's arms. As Wendy gently stroked Paper's head, Paper squeezed against her chest and mumbled unclearly, "How much bigger?" "Like Sister Wendy?" Spear closed her book, watching the three of them, feeling a sense of peace within her heart. Wendy inquired about Spear's thoughts on the city hall, to which Spear shared her fascination with its organized, closely linked management structure. Compared to having several ministers manage separately, having the city hall handle employee salaries made transition smoother and allowed competent civilians to join without hindrance. It was hard for her to imagine how Prince Roland could conceive such ideas. Just then, a guard entered the hall, reporting that a resident outside the castle claimed his daughter had just awakened as a witch. The guard remembered that in Prince Roland's absence, matters like this were to be handled by the Witches' Union. The three were taken aback. A newly awakened witch? They hurried to the hall, where two women were already waiting, one visibly aged, slightly hunched, and another significantly younger, standing rigidly beside the older woman. They both bowed respectfully to Wendy. The guard reported that they claimed to be migrants from the south, having moved into the inner city residential area a month and a half ago. He had verified their IDs, which matched the provided information. Wendy looked at the young girl and, in the gentlest tone she could muster, asked for her name. The girl didn't respond, prompting the older woman to nudge her to reply. The girl timidly said her name was Summer. Scroll turned her gaze to the woman, inquiring if she was Summer's mother. The woman nodded rapidly, mentioning that the child's father was at work, so she brought her daughter first. Then she queried if it was true what the prince's announcement said about witches receiving a gold coin per month as salary. Scroll squinted at the woman while Wendy clarified that, indeed, if the girl decided to join the Witches' Union. Summer opened her mouth and was about to speak, but the woman interrupted, pushing her forward, asserting that Summer would join, and her daughter would certainly be willing to dedicate everything to the prince, and then inquired when they could receive the money. Wendy couldn't help but furrow her brows at the woman's words. It wasn't hard to discern from her tone that the woman seemingly viewed her daughter as merchandise and the Witches' Union as a place to entertain the prince. Suppressing her displeasure, she responded calmly, telling the woman His Highness is currently attending to official affairs at the Chengdu stronghold. It's uncertain when he will return. Furthermore, joining the Witches' Union requires some evaluation and testing. The woman can let the girl stay in the castle first until His Highness returns to decide. The woman, pleased, patted her daughter's head and told her to behave well. Summer called out to her mother, wanting to say something more, but her mother had already turned and was walking away. Wendy stepped forward to hold her hand, gently reassuring her not to worry. The Witches' Union wasn't as her family thought, and she didn't have to stay in the castle if she didn't want to. The girl asked weakly if it was true, to which Wendy earnestly nodded. She then led Summer inside to warm up. The girl obediently followed her into the castle, lowering her head. At this point, Agatha also arrived. With Nightingale and Sylvie absent, it fell to Agatha to discern the girl's abilities. Summer, gazing at the strangers, felt tense. She held the green magic stone Agatha gave her and answered some questions about her age and when she awakened. Interestingly, her awakening day and her coming-of-age day were the same, a situation Wendy had never encountered before. Summer closed her eyes and let the magical power within her circulate. As she spoke, the magic-filled stone radiated a soft green light, enveloping Summer in its glow. After observing for a while, Agatha confirmed that the girl wasn't lying. Indeed, her characteristics were consistent with those whose awakening and coming of age occurred on the same day. It appears that Summer possessed a summoning-type ability, but her magic level was extremely low. Wendy, slightly taken aback, asked if such occurrences had happened in Takira before, and why was Summer's magic level so low? The Federation had witnessed the awakening of thousands of witches, and such incidents were not rare. Witches who awakened just at the cusp of adulthood essentially lost the coming-of-age day and abilities that other witches have, leading to weaker magic. Agatha pondered for a moment, concluding that contemplating these factors was pointless. It was the ability itself that determined a witch's worth. Hearing this, Wendy was somewhat displeased, stating that every witch should be viewed as a sister, not measured by their capabilities, as they are not tools. However, Agatha stands by her view. Summer opened her eyes, looking puzzled, and asked what they were arguing about. Wendy managed a smile for her and gently encouraged her to display her ability. The little girl held her breath and slowly extended her hands. Soon, the four of them witnessed a transformation. By the side of the hall's tea table, the figures of Wendy, Scroll, and Spear appeared again. Wendy and Scroll seemed to be in conversation, but no sound could be heard. Paper, who had left the hall long ago, appeared beside Wendy and slowly crawled into her lap, showing a sweet smile. Instinctively, Wendy reached out towards her other self, but her hand passed through the figure as if there was nothing there. After the illusion disappeared, an unusual silence enveloped the hall. Summer was drained of her magic power, and Wendy held her from behind to prevent her from falling. Agatha slowly mentioned that the ability to create group illusions was quite rare. She knew during her time in the Federation that at least 2 people had similar abilities, one of whom was a high-ranking witch. Wendy had Summer sit down and then asked her how many times she could use such ability in a day, to which Summer softly replied 2 or 3 times. Summer didn't understand many terms that were being asked, and Scroll patiently explained them to her. Summer gently nodded. Wendy smiled at Summer, telling her they would teach her slowly in the future. Wendy then had her use her illusion ability once more with all her strength. This time, the scene displayed was from a day and a half ago. The lamps in the hall were lit, and the Sisters of the Witch Union were enjoying dinner at the long table. Wendy and Scroll recorded these and planned to let His Highness make a judgment. However, Scroll, who is always cautious, suggests that Summer can't stay in the castle before Nightingale returns to detect lies. Scroll knew that the possibility was extremely slim, but don't forget, His Highness Roland was the person they could least afford to lose, and his safety was more important than anything to the Witches' Union. Wendy also understood where Scroll was coming from. The two left the castle with Summer. After leaving the castle, the girl suddenly became much livelier and began to hold Wendy's hand, asking more about witches and the Lord. Wendy satisfied her curiosity by answering each question one by one. Summer then shyly lowered her head and said she had heard that the Lord, or His Highness the Prince, was a very scary person who tormented the women around him every day. Upon hearing this, Wendy and Scroll were both shocked. No wonder Summer was so afraid of the prince. Wendy said those were just rumors and not true, and the prince was a very nice person. Not long after they arrived at the small area where Summer's family lived, and the one who opened the door was Summer's mother. Seeing Summer, her mother looked somewhat flustered, thinking her daughter must have done something wrong, so the castle did not want her. Scroll said they could sign the contract once His Highness the Prince returned. The woman still seemed somewhat disbelieving, insisting urgently that Summer was a bit dull but was very well behaved and willing to do anything for the prince. Wendy felt a surge of anger rises in her heart, but she was stopped by Scroll before she could say anything. It wasn't until Scroll pulled out a piece of gold coin and waved it in front of the woman, seriously telling her that her daughter was indeed a witch and could sign a contract once His Highness returned. This was the salary for the first month, and she instructed the woman that she was now taking care of Summer on behalf of His Highness. The woman quickly nodded and said she would take good care of Summer. Leaving the neighborhood, Wendy could no longer hold back the annoyance in her heart and questioned why Scroll had given the money to such a person. It should belong to Summer herself. Scroll's answer was straightforward, asking Wendy if she thinks that Summer could keep that gold coin safe. If not, sooner or later it would fall into the hands of her family. If she could, it might be worse, as they might then completely see her as an outsider. Conversely, by giving it directly to her mother, Summer wouldn't have any burden, and perhaps they might even treat her a bit better because of it. There are still many days to come. If one gold coin could be exchanged for a more comfortable living environment for Summer, it might not be a bad deal. Wendy thought about it, and realized that Scroll was right. She had thought too simplistically. Wendy was disheartened by the series of setbacks, thinking sadly that perhaps she wasn't the right person to lead the Witches' Union at all. His Highness had revealed to Wendy his plans to make the Witches' Union an independent organization, with Wendy in charge. However, Wendy didn't have the knowledge His Highness had, and she couldn't be as thoughtful as he was. When it came to dealing with risks and incidents, she wasn't as rational and decisive as Scroll. Wendy didn't see herself as a suitable leader. It was as if Scroll had seen through her thoughts, stating that no one cared about them more than Wendy did. Scroll looked at Wendy seriously and smiled, saying, after experiencing the witch associations led by Hakura, she realized that a leader who truly cares about the witches, regardless of their abilities, and is willing to put herself in the shoes of many sisters, is the most trustworthy leader. And that is something irreplaceable in Wendy. Outside the castle, Wendy and Scroll heard the distant voices of Lightning and Maisie and smiled, knowing that His Highness had returned. When they returned to the castle, the witches who had heard the news had already gathered in the hall. Roland barely stepped through the door, not yet having had the chance to enjoy the long-missed warmth when a warm body already threw itself into his arms. Smelling the familiar scent from the strands of hair, he smiled, patting her head, and told Anna he was back. Soon Maisie and Lightning also rushed over and jumped on Roland. Soon, everyone came to greet him, and the hall was filled with a joyful atmosphere. Although the Stronghold Castle was much larger than this place, only these warm smiles and this small place could make Roland feel comfortable. After the lavish dinner, Roland returned to his office. Just as he was about to organize the books brought from the Stronghold, Anna walked in. Roland was about to show Anna the new books he had found, but before he could finish speaking, he felt a pair of soft lips pressed against his. Looking into her rippling eyes, it seems these books can wait for a little while longer. The day after, Roland, humming a little tune, walked into the office to find Wendy already waiting in the room. She, with a warm smile, shared everything that had happened over the past few days. When Roland heard about the new witch, he was overjoyed, as Summer was the first to awaken in his territory. He instructed Wendy to bring her in the afternoon to sign the contract. Wendy agreed, but her expression suggested she had more to say. Roland asked her what was wrong. After a moment of silence, Wendy asked, with a degree of hesitation, she wondered if Roland was upset. She was referring to the perceptions and rumors refugees from the South had of him and the Witch Union. She also confessed that she didn't feel capable of managing the Witch Union and that Scroll, being more mature, should be the one in charge. Roland smiled and responded, saying that Wendy must have spoken to Scroll about this, but Scroll still believed that Wendy was the most suitable choice, right? Wendy was shocked. Roland put down his teacup and looked at Wendy, explaining that managerial skills and techniques can be acquired through practice and learning, but one's character and personality are hard to change. Among the witches, aside from Maisie, Wendy is the one most loved by everyone. Besides, Scroll is primarily responsible for the work of the education department and will be busier in the future, lacking time to interact and communicate with the new witches. This is where Wendy has an advantage, so she should have more confidence in herself. Roland assured her that he was quite accurate in judging people. Before Wendy could respond, the prince continued, as for the misguided views and rumors the refugees have about the Witch Union, it seems Roland had been neglectful. He also didn't expect his reputation to have spread throughout the kingdom. He pondered for a moment. To change this perception quickly, besides increasing publicity and debunking these rumors, he thinks it's better to let the organization operate independently as soon as possible. Roland hoped that the Witch Union could establish a system to operate independently and address employment arrangements for witches, while he would guide the usage and development of their abilities. Roland had considered this issue before. Right now, the Witches' Union only has about a dozen witches, a number he could still manage. But if the union expanded to hundreds, or even resembled the holy city Takira, having thousands of witches, it would not be possible for him to arrange tasks individually anymore. Wendy could consult Spear about structural issues and could also start recruiting town folks for paperwork. Wendy took a deep breath. If Roland decided to entrust this task to her, she would try her best to do it. After Wendy left, Roland continued to tidy up the books that he hadn't finished organizing the day before. Seeing the pages scattered on the ground, he couldn't help but think of the hot and breathless kiss from yesterday. Perhaps in his memory, the first time he met Anna, she was still a frail and helpless girl. But now she had grown into a graceful and charming young lady. The changes that occurred in her in just a short year were immense. Maybe Roland should take the initiative to respond to her feelings, Roland thought, but as he reached out, his hand touched another finger. Coming to his senses, he realized that Nightingale had handed the book to him. From the moment Anna had entered the office to the warm embrace, it was only a few seconds, and Roland hadn't noticed whether Nightingale had followed him into the room after the banquet. Nightingale smiled as if seeing through Roland's thoughts, saying that she had left the room immediately last night. She had guessed that Anna, having not seen Roland for a long time, would seek him. Saying Anna never repressed her emotions. With Nightingale's help, the books were quickly categorized and placed into the cabinet, filling the once empty bookshelf. For a moment, the two were silent. Roland stuffed the last book into the cabinet and thanked Nightingale. As Nightingale is about to leave, she questions how much longer will Roland drag it out? Don't keep Anna waiting. There was a hint of sadness in Nightingale's eyes, which Roland didn't see. When he turned around, he found that Nightingale had disappeared, but her half-spoken words still echoed in his ears. Though her voice was very low, he was sure he heard right. Nightingale had said, "Don't make me wait too long either." Roland was no longer the engineer dog who dealt with mechanical drawings all day long, and this was not the world he once knew. He was gradually becoming a lord governing a region, and he might even become the ruler of the kingdom in the future. He told himself to just act according to his heart. There was no benefit in forcing each other for some rules that were unsubstantial. It would only hurt Anna and Nightingale. Thinking this, Roland felt much relieved. Soon, Wendy brought Summer over. Roland walked slowly towards Summer and gently told her that she could choose to live in the castle or go home as long as she came to practice her abilities and attend classes every day. At the same time, Roland welcomed Summer to become a member of the Witches' Union. Regarding her unique ability, Wendy had already recorded it very clearly, so Roland did not conduct any more tests and directly placed the contract in front of her. Summer picked up the pen and stiffened for a while before shyly admitting that she could not write. Roland smiled and told her it was okay, a handprint would also do. Afterward, anything Summer didn't understand, she could ask the members of the Witches' Union. Summer then lowered her head and asked if her ability was of any use. Roland told Summer that her ability is very useful. Her ability will make her becoming a famous detective. Summer looked confused. What is a famous detective? Roland smiled and said that Summer would know soon enough, and then he called Nightingale out of the mist, telling Summer that from today onwards, this witch would be her superior. May looked carefully at the items in the box, wondering what else she needed to bring. Eileen thought about it and said it would be best to bring a set of pillows, quilts, and sheets. Hearing this, the other two simultaneously showed strange smiles. May said those things were not necessary. Carter said he would buy a new set in the market, reportedly a treasure from one of the 4 major families, found in the basement of the mansion. Eileen envied them, saying they must be made of the best silk. May pretended not to care. He seems to have said that a set needs 5 gold coins. After the jokes, May said she heard that Sir Eltec had come to the border town. How was he now? Eileen responded that Furlan's father saw in the town square that Prince Roland had quelled the rebellion and the three major families were annihilated. Only the barely surviving Meade family was left, and the Yeltek family was almost implicated. As for Miso, he was captured by the prince's soldiers. Since he did not commit any murder and surrendered actively, he was only sentenced to 10 years of hard labor. But since Miso decided to rebel, he was kicked out of the family by the Sir. Therefore, Sir Eltek still hoped that Furlan could inherit the family's title. Sir Eltek believed that only Furlan could revive the family. Eileen said she would support whatever choice Furlan made, whether keeps his work as a teacher or goes back to the family. The door was suddenly pushed open. Carter had arrived. Everyone greeted Carter. May asked Carter why he came today. It wasn't a holiday, was it? Carter scratched the back of his head and said he had received special permission from Prince Roland. Then Carter brought out a gift. The three of them had their eyes light up at the same time. The other two suddenly thought of something, found an excuse to leave, and also dragged Eileen out. Eileen protested, saying she wanted to see what May's gift was. Left alone in the room, Carter asked May to try on the clothes to see if they fit, mentioning that he had specifically requested Prince Roland to design them. When Carter reported their wedding date to the prince, he mentioned that there was a type of dress particularly suitable for weddings, but it was very troublesome to make. Carter pleaded with the prince for a long time and even bribed Miss Soroya with an ice cream sandwich to make it. As the layers of fabric unfolded, a touch of pure white filled May's vision. Not long after, May had changed into the dress, and a rare blush surfaced on her face. She could guess her appearance at the moment. The stunned chief knight was the best proof. May went to Carter to thank him for the gift. The knight, regaining his senses, didn't respond but instead opened his arms to hug her. Carter told May that the prince had said that, after the month of the demon ends, they would hold a new-style wedding in front of everyone. May commented that since coming to the town, she has encountered new things almost every day. Carter nodded, and they both looked out the window. Indeed, under the prince's rule, this place would also become a new city. Roland held the first expanded city council meeting in the castle's reception room, holding a copy of the kingdom's law and constitution. He stated that it was the general regulation to be implemented after the establishment of the new city, and everyone was free to refer to it. Baraf began to explain the structure and system of the new territory. 1. All power within the territories under Roland Wimbledon belongs to Roland Wimbledon. 2. The city hall is the highest authority in the territory. 3. The influx of people within the territory can be promoted to official citizens through various ways, and the city hall should maintain at least 3 promotion channels. For, after becoming an official citizen, there is no longer a distinction between their previous title, whether it's knights, freemen, serfs, servants, slaves, men, or women. Citizens are protected by law, enjoying all the safeguards and benefits of the territory, and have the obligation to pay taxes, serve, and defend. 5. Nobles are also members of official citizens. Titles no longer have corresponding power but can be inherited as honorary titles by law. 6. The personal safety and legal property of citizens are protected by Roland Wimbledon and cannot be violated. 7. Citizens have the right to freedom of speech, the right to education, the right to choose their work freely, and the right to free marriage. 8. The territory encourages legal commercial activities and free trade. These were just a few of the laws and constitution. It was a long time before Barra finished explaining each point. The meeting continued from morning to afternoon, with attendants serving meals directly on the table so everyone could eat while they listened. Barav's cup was refilled several times. Despite feeling his throat sore, he still enjoyed it. Finally, the meeting moved on to the last topic, which was also the only provision in the meeting that allowed everyone to discuss and decide, determining the flag and the name of the new city. After several rounds of voting and elimination, the flag and the name of the new city were finally selected. The flag is based on the emblem of the Grey Castle royal family, the base pattern still being a tower and a long spear, with a new pentagonal star added above the tower and 3 smaller stars below it. The large star symbolizes the Lord, Roland Wimbledon, while the smaller stars respectively represent the City Hall, the First Army, and the Witch Union. As the dark clouds slowly disappeared and the sun gradually rose, the horizon was dyed golden, and the whole world was enveloped in warm and bright sunlight, bringing light and heat to the earth. The new city was established as the City of Neverwinter.